Okay. Hi, it's Deb Lang here, and I'm with Cindy Wilkins, and Cindy's in Boston, and I'm in Melbourne, in Australia. So we're having a conversation about the book, Trust Your Senses, Embodied Wisdom for the Modern Age. So I met Cindy on BB, and she came across my book, and she read it. And so it's fantastic to have a conversation with a reader and hear what you got. And I know that there's a particular part in there that really called to you and calls to many women, because as you said, like so many women suppress their anger because we're told to, be ladylike, or, it's about controlling anger. But anyway, you share with me what actually happened when you read that and how you found out that you actually did have some anger in your body and what's happened since then.
Okay, well, thanks. Nice to meet you. And first of all, I'd like to start by explaining exactly how I came about using the book, Trust Your Senses. And I tend to trust my senses when it comes to things that come across to me in the moment. And I would just take the book and randomly open a page. Mm-hmm. And I found that every time I would flip through it and randomly open a page without thinking about it, I kept walking through anger. It kept coming out. It kept jumping off the page at me. No matter how much I tried to flip to another section, that anger just kept coming back to me. So I realized, trust that sense, Cindy. This is something that we need to deal with. We need to focus on, and we need to face. And it is uncomfortable, and many of us don't like the idea of even thinking about it, let alone feeling it. So in essence, I kind of manifested the idea of, okay, now if I'm going to work through anger, I'm going to have to find some kind of an outlet to help me work through this anger, because it is such an uncomfortable feeling. And I tapped into the idea that maybe we could use a buddy system here. And I had been online talking with Deb Helfrich a lot about, creating some kind of a focus for people where they could come and they could share their feelings. We could share who we are, get to know each other a little bit. And even for her, going through this book, through my conversations with her, I found out she was reading it at the same time, and she kept stumbling through the same pages in anger. And I thought, well, here we are. This is obviously a synchronicity happening here. So we're going to tap into this, and we're going to try to figure out a way to create something good out of something not quite so comfortable to feel. So Here we are, and we're manifesting that with you in a way as a facilitator. So we're working in this interesting triad here of energy. And one of the words that really jumped out at me on the page was your idea of exforming. And I know you and Deb had talked about it too. Just exforming all of those old patterns, the way that we view anger, the way that we've been taught not to express anger, taking all of those old notions and kind of casting them aside, rising them up, recognizing them and casting them aside, so we can create a new space or a blank canvas, so we can paint a new picture of how we're going to deal with these emotions going forward, because they will continually throughout our lives come up over and over again. So in taking those little, exercising those little demons, I guess, that tend to bubble from the surface, or bubble to the surface from the bottom of the cauldron, there's always something that stirs that pot. If we don't deal with those things that rise, then eventually they just sink back to the bottom again until the next situation comes around and stirs the pot again. So that's our whole focus here. And how do we take those little pieces of self, those little internal demons? How do we exercise them? How do we excavate them out of our beings? And the book is a wonderful initiator of that response. Now the idea is taking the information that you learn here in this book and putting it into action. Because we can all read a million self-help books.
Yeah.
But if we're not putting the concepts into practice in our lives, all we're doing is reading self-help books.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. I know. And that's awesome, because that's why, like, sort of a half of the book is all an invitation to explore and exercises and guides, because that's exactly what I wanted to happen, is that people would actually use it. Like I love Deb saying she uses it like a recipe book, and to adjust them, you know, have a go at what I've suggested, but then create your own recipes. But yeah, we all can read books and great ideas, but they don't actually create any change. So I was just so delighted to hear, because I did suggest for people to find a buddy, and you found a buddy, which is just so great. Having to find a buddy that's reading the book at exactly the same time in two different places, you know, in America, and then to actually take action to form that buddy and support one another.
Right.
It's just awesome. It's just perfect. You have no idea how delighted I am. You know, it all makes it worthwhile for me, if it's worthwhile for you. So that's so great. So anyway, Cindy, it'd be great to have another conversation with you and follow up on another topic. So thank you very much for sharing that with me. That was so great.
Very welcome. It was my pleasure.